I'm compelled by Schlock.
Well, welcome all you masters of schlock foo. I am your host, Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Chris Anonymous. How's it going, Chris? How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling the glow tonight.
Feeling the glow, man.
Feeling the glow.
Tell me about it. Tonight we're talking about The Last Dragon, and I've never seen this movie before. You've seen it before. It was your pick. And I'm glad I saw. I'm feeling the glow as well. You know what kept going through my mind through this whole movie was the Transformers cartoon movie.
Yeah,
you got the touch, you got the power, like just
the
that
glow. It has the same vibe.
Yeah,
like there's a 80s aesthetic where they use music in a certain way that you don't see a lot anymore. That just really kind of pushed up these key scenes and like these moments and just like. I don't know, made you like little hairs stand up in the back of your neck and you just felt this like surge of like amazingness and like, this is the greatest moment of my entire life.
Yeah. But if you like listen to the song on its own, you're like, whoa, the hell is this about?
Right. Well, and there was that, like, those were songs written for the movies that like pretty much help push the story forward, like telling the actor what they have to do to grow as a character.
Yeah. And this is how you need to feel in this moment. This song is playing. So,
oh man.
Anyway, movie Last Dragon. We are compelled by very odd movies that we find on Tubi, and we watch them every week. We pick one. This is the format of the show. We pick a movie off of Tubi because it's free for everybody to watch. They're usually of a schlocky nature, and then we watch them during the week, and then we live stream the show. We put it up the next day on YouTube. We talk about what's good, what's bad, and what's schlocky. What's the overall vibe of this movie? We're going to talk about tonight real quick. We have big spoilers for you. We spoil everything, even movies that we haven't seen. So sorry, I'm trying to get through all of this because I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about. This movie was made in 1985. It only took 44 days to film, so a little over a month. It cost $10 million roughly to make, and it made just under $26 million. So it was not a critical success, but it was a commercial success. And I think that we'll kind of get into that.
Yeah, that's how much rare for a lot of schlock.
Yeah, that actually like made quite a bit of money, but I think if anyone's seen it, we'll see why it's schlock. Let's see, there were a lot of big hands that brushed across this movie. Our main character, Bruce Leroy Green, is played by, and I don't know how to say his name, T-Mac. T-Mac. It's probably T-Mac.
It's just like the watches, right?
Is that a watch? I don't know. I thought that was an ancient chaos dragon. Oh wait, that's time off. Anyway, so auditioning for his role, I believe he got it because he was a martial artist prior. He was only like 19 or 20.
Yeah, this was his first role, and he got it basically because he's a badass black belt in lots of martial arts.
Trying to get the role prior, a lot of other famous black actors, Lawrence Fishburne, Wesley Snipes, which I mean, you'd think he would have been good for, right? He's a martial arts guy.
This has probably made him,
Denzel Washington, even you'd see Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Oh man, I bet he would have done great. Show enough, one of the main villains in this, Billy D. Williams and Carl Weathers tried to get that part.
Love me some Carl Weathers.
So we could have had Denzel Washington and Carl Weathers, Billy D. facing off, kicking each other in the face. There's a joke there about the Oscars. but we won't get into that. Yeah. So tell us, you got some web of schlock for us, I'm sure.
So
there's a lot of connections to this movie.
There's a lot of connections and a lot of not connections. There's a lot of not movie connections. So sorry if we're saying the name wrong, but Timac, again, first movie, never really acting. Vanity, she was the main singer from Vanity Six, which was a group in the 80s that were proteges of Prince. She actually dated Prince for a while. So a lot of non-actors, right, in lead roles. And then just all these crazy bit parts. Show Enough, I don't know if you remember, he was Coach in New Guy.
Oh,
yeah. Yep. Mike Starr, he was in Dumb and Dumber. Just lots of little bit things. Ernie Reyes Jr.
How do they know I have gas?
Yeah. Ernie Reyes Jr., man, he's going to come back. Surf Ninjas, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
I love it. We got to get some Surf Ninjas in.
And then we have unknown actor at the time, William H. Macy.
Yeah, I think we got a picture of him. I thought that he was going to be a main character in this because I'm like, he's so recognizable, and he was then unknown. I think his credit is W.H. Macy.
Right. So
in the movie.
If we have time in schlock, we're going to see if we can connect this character. Maybe this is like some alternate universe version of Frank Gallagher.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be really funny if this is like his beginning. All right. So the main thing I want to touch on, the director, he's done a lot of TV, He also, a lot of TV movies. But the main thing is you look on the credits behind you. Here we go. Barry Gordy's Last Dragon. Okay. Do you know who Barry Gordy is?
I did look him up a little bit. Is he
founded Motown?
He's a Motown. Yeah. Motown.
He founded Motown. He's like R&B dynasty, man. Has a kid with Diana Ross. He wrote or co-wrote Do You Love Me? Shop Around, Jackson 5's ABC, and I Want You Back, some of the quintessential R&B songs ever. But he produced a couple other movies, and this was it. But it's just so interesting that he was on set a lot. And I mean, he was into it enough that he put his name in front of it. Did he do the music for it? Did he write the glow? He put it was a Motown thing. So he put the soundtrack together. Okay. Yeah. And kind of had his critical eye going over it. Little connections with him. Do you remember Rockwell from the 80s? I Always Feel Like Somebody's Watching Me. Okay. Yeah. That's his son. His youngest son is Redfo of LMFAO. Okay. Yeah. Just LMFAO. And there's, I think in Sexy and I Know It, they reference Bruce Leroy. Right. Yeah. And then, this has weird cultural things. I remember a Busta Rhymes video from the late 90s where he was basically playing Show Enough. Yeah. I think we got a picture of this. When Show Enough came on screen, I was like, I was like, is that Busta Rhymes? How old is Busta Rhymes? And I was trying to figure it out. I was like, oh, he must have just got it from this. Yeah. That was super entertaining. Yeah. No, yeah. All right, but that's it for Web of Schlock. It was just really interesting that I don't know if he was trying to get into movies and this did good, but not good enough. But it's really interesting to put your name in front of it when you're just the producer, but you're also the guy who founded Motown and shaped music for the last it may have helped years. For the audience. It could. It may have helped for the audience. I mean, clearly it made a good portion of money. And when we get to the good, the music's one of my favorite things. But that's it. What do you got for good and bad? So we'll rapid fire through good and bad so we can get to the schlock. So I'll start with my good. I just love the vision of this movie, this vision of the 80s, the neon 80s. You can see it in a lot of other movies, this sort of style, but it's just.
I don't think the 80s were really like that. I think it's what people in the 80s thought the 80s were like. And I just really enjoy seeing that. And the fact that you could do things like a musical kung fu movie. I don't know. I really enjoyed that. I love like all of the cross culture things. I love that you have all these people like in Harlem, all of these black people that are into like kung fu movies. And then when he goes to Sumdum Goy, you have I think they're Korean guys. They like are like hip hop dancing and they like make fun of Bruce Leroy. Like, I don't know. It's this weird.
It felt like, again, not only is that vibe of the 80s, of what they thought about it, but it also had that kind of big city, New York vibe of the 80s. And there was this whole like melting pot thing where everything was mixed together and everyone was having fun with each other and celebrating everyone's like how everyone was different and how everyone was the same. And like, it just felt like, oh, it's all good. It just had it
just really turns all these cultures around. Yeah.
And it makes you want to be there and it makes you feel good. And I love that too.
We talked about how influential it is, like with Busta Rhymes. We can talk about this more later. I'm wondering if this was a big influence for the Wu-Tang Clan, not this movie specifically, but like this was like a part of that culture that
I would
brought
assume,
the Wu-Tang Clan around.
I don't know for sure, but I would assume that the culture that this came out of, Wu-Tang also came out of.
Right. And very clearly you can tell that this is a culture that exists, and the people that made this movie, the movie itself loves its subject matter.
Yes.
It's not like, it's not making fun of it. It's loving it.
Yeah. It's not someone cashing in on it. It's
right. Let's see. I think that there are a lot of really interesting characters in it. And I'll actually get more into that in Bad. And I think that the movie, for being under 2 hours, it is just jam-packed full of this stuff, jam-packed full of these characters, full of these stories. And I think that's really cool.
Side stories. Yeah.
I mean, we pre-show, we were talking about the Batman movie that just came out and how it's kind of a bloated movie, but this has as much stuff in it, good or bad, but it does it in under 2 hours. So for my Bad, I'll keep going with this world building stuff. I think they do make some odd world building choices. I love the opening theater scene where we first meet Shonuff. And there's just like a crazy cast of characters in there. And for me, that was like an introduction to a world that they didn't necessarily stay in the rest of the movie. Because there were like all these other people that were like willing to fight Shonuff, and I don't know, they didn't stay there. Eddie Arcadia, I really appreciate the name Arcadia. I think that's good world building, but apparently he's like a video game mogul.
Right. Wanting to get into the music business.
I saw a distinct lack of video games. I think we see one in the pizza parlor later on.
Right.
But I'm not really sure why Leroy is the way that he is, given the culture that he's in, and that like he has like this normal family. I thought that there were too many plots going and too many loose threads. Like we have the Shonuff villain, we have the quest to find the glow, we have Eddie Arcadia. They do a really cool thing with like this fish tank, building that up, thinking that
it goes
like
nowhere.
Yeah, it makes Eddie more mad, but yeah, they really built that up, and they could have used that time better.
Yeah, it feels like there was a cut scene somewhere.
Yeah. Angela, like she was just kind of in for a very specific purpose, and then they got her out. And then I feel like there were underused side characters. So there's Johnny Yu, who he's the guy that like he's like I've you say master fighting without fighting or whatever. I mastered fighting without knowing how to fight. Like I love this character, and I would have loved to know more about him and his world.
I love the scene where he's hitting on the wannabe Cyndi Lauper.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this dude was hilarious. For me, he was a screen stealer.
Yep.
And then they have the dog man who I liked the scene, but I felt like it didn't go anywhere. The fact that like they give him so much screen time where he's barking and being all crazy. And then when it comes time to fight him, we just get like a shot to show that he's there essentially, but there's no like big showdown between the two. And in the end, my very last bad thing, I'm not a big fan of Richie. Like I thought he was funny. I thought his little brother Richie was funny, but he didn't really have enough sugar for me, enough kindness, or they didn't give him enough things other than being funny to make me like him until the very end where he's like, he's my brother. But prior to that, I was like, man,
I think you kind of
sucks.
need that. I think you kind of need where it's like, he doesn't see who his brother is. So I think they did that on purpose. And I think it works that you don't really like this character a whole lot until the end. And then he comes around and then you kind of start coming around on him. But okay.
So hit me with your good and bad, and let's go into schlock.
I got nothing for good and nothing for bad. It's all schlock. I love this movie. I could pick it apart for days with bad things, and I could tell you all these good things, but they're all schlock. The only thing I'll touch on before we get into schlock is the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. Love it. Rhythm of the Night, man, such a great song. I thought it was ill used. They just play the music video and dance to it. That would have been a great end credit song. Like, it's such a great song. The other thing, some of the music is not as good as some of the other music, right? Like there's a level. And the problem is the good is so good that it makes the bad really bad.
Yeah, it really sticks out.
Yeah. And I'm like, and then like, you can even have some bad if you use it in certain scenes, but like, the good, they used it like they did the Glow song properly, but some of the others, I'm like, you should have saved that. You should have brought it back. You should have. So it's good.
Well, man, I tell you what, I hated the. Now that I think about it, I hated the song that they used to start the credits with, like the slow.
It
ballad.
Was so wrong. It was like
so wrong for that moment.
It was a perfectly fine song. It was the worst song to end the movie on. It completely changes the vibe. Like you want Rhythm of the Night there. You want a song where everyone's out there, the energy's up. You want dancing. Like, show me some moves, and then that song comes on, and it brings you back to the beginning, and then everyone's dancing and they kiss and like,
exactly. The song they use is to be played over the credits as the last song when everybody's gone home. That's when you play that slow ballad crap.
Right.
In my opinion. Yeah, that's
or a different movie, it would feel totally appropriate. But like, man, it's such an epic like third act, and it's just so much energy, and then like what is going on? And so that last song is bad for me. But let's get to schlock.
I want to keep going with music for a sec, because I want to give a shout out to the Angela character. The songs that she's singing, like I wish I would have had more time to dive into this movie and like listen to the lyrics in a more like her trashy songs that Eddie Arcadia is trying to get played. They're hilarious.
They're hilarious.
So funny.
Yeah. That's spot on. Yeah. And the music videos too, like just it feels like the perfect thing for someone trying to get into the music business who just isn't in on the joke or doesn't quite have the talent. Like, oh, you're just a little too sexual, but not in a sexual way. It's just
sexual
funny
but not
and
sexy.
Awkward. Yeah. You're being too sexual but not sexy. It's just man.
For schlock, let's talk real quick about like the culture behind this movie, like this.
So it's a subgenre to me.
Okay.
And I love this subgenre, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with inner city and kung fu combination. Although a lot of the movies I'm going to name have something similar to that, but I'm thinking like, so Last Dragon, Big Trouble in Little China, Golden Child, Streets of Fire. Now, you could argue that these are all very different movies, but they all evoke a very similar feeling in me. And they all have that heightened reality and that fairy tale and that mismatch of cultures and influences and just a spirit of celebration of like drawing this and this and this and this. It didn't. Kill Bill, many, many years later, had a similar feeling. It wasn't like as warm and happy as these movies.
Yeah.
But just that idea of drawing on all your inspirations and a spirit of celebration. Much darker,
right.
Although it's also funny. I mean, I love Kill Bills, but like it's not the same genre, but it's a similar vibe. Are there any other movies from the 80s that like evoke that come to mind when you think of what I named?
I mean, when you said Streets of Fire, I mean, yeah, very different movie from this, but this, I was thinking Streets of Fire the entire time. That total just over dramatic vibe. Like the stakes are so high, but they're not. Like it's save the girl type stakes. I kept coming to that movie over and over again. So I want to talk about Leroy, the character of Bruce Leroy Green.
Yep.
So I thought that it was odd that it seemed like, I just want to know how did he become the way that he is? Like, he's like, Master, I've disappointed you. He's like using like these accents, but like, that's like not where he's from. His master even says like, oh, you've been watching those kung fu movies again.
Right.
Like, and we see that his family isn't in on it. Like most of the culture around him isn't like that. So how did he get to where he's wearing like a straw hat and like,
when you find some, I assume he found something young. I assume he watched a Bruce Lee movie when he was very young. Right. And, something about it just speaks to you. Right. And then that becomes kind of your thing. And if it's young enough, then you really start to embrace that and kind of like mold your identity around it. Right. And then the more outside influences, attack isn't the right word, encroach on you, the more you kind of double down on this thing that you are. And, so between watching the movies and between, taking these martial arts classes, I think this character really felt that he was coming into his own. And so I think that he chose to stay home and watch Bruce Lee again instead of going to a party. Right. And so the more you do something like that, the more you're kind of stuck in that one thing. And so I see characters like this in real life all the time, not like someone who's like,
in real life.
Right. But like in people who pick one thing and that's the thing they do. And then they're an expert on it. And they're the ones at the party who are going to tell you all about this one thing. And they hope you bring it up. Right. Because that's their identity.
Right. But clearly like the people around him, the culture around him, as we see in the movie theater, like there are people that enjoy the same things that he does, but like he's just like taking it to a dare I say like an autistic level. Like, I mean, he's not like the other boys.
Well, and some people use the word genius, right? I mean,
he's clearly a master,
Right. Certain people have a drive and they latch on to, it's like how a kid becomes a chess master, right? A lot of his things are going to revolve around chess, and a lot of the analogies he has to deal with life and the world are going to come through chess and be filtered through that. And he's not going to have a lot of the same social experiences because he's not going to go to the party. He's going to stay at home and study old chess games from old masters, right?
Yeah.
So when you find something that you're passionate about, obviously you have to dial back some of your social
there's a lot of things you have to give up to become
Yeah.
better at something, for
and,
sure.
and some people have that drive. Like, there are lots of great martial artists that are not Bruce Lee, right? There's,
Mhm.
and so all these people who go to the movies,
They don't have the glow.
They don't have the glow. Yeah. So, yeah, but it is an
Right.
interesting character. I agree. Yeah, there's just so many fun things in this movie. Another 80s thing are all the silly little sight gags and just like we'd already shown like the bad guy interview, right? We don't have to go back to that picture again, but just it. So the bad thing that you said was that we didn't get we spent so much time on him and we didn't get to see the dog guy really fight and have his own.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the whole point of that was just like that these guys exist in this world and that they're holding like job interviews to like who can kill the last
it's
dragon.
so kooky.
So kooky and so silly. The fortune cookie machine.
Yeah, some dumb goy.
Yeah, it's just a sight gag and a joke. Like, there's no master. We have a machine that writes fortune cookies. Like, and then they cut to the machine and there's a fortune cookie on it, and you're just shaking your head, and at the same time you're smiling and like, oh.
And those three guys, I want to point out that their names. I don't think they say the names in the movie, but their names are Hugh, Yi, Do, Yi, and Lou Yi.
So Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Wow.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
And this was also great. And
Cracked me up.
This is also interesting. When you look at like cultural shifts and identities and stuff, and like he's trying to, it's just
well, so
bizarre
you
on so many levels.
You said that like Leroy seems like the type of person that he found this thing like martial arts at a very young age. So at this point in the movie, while he's trying to infiltrate some dumb goy, and he's trying to act like a person from Harlem or the hood or wherever, he's trying to like think like how do these people talk, right? Like he's like practicing the voice so he doesn't get caught. And then when they ask him like, hey man, you shoot craps, right? He's like, yeah. And so he's thinking back to like, okay, when was the last time that I was like, like in that world? And so it was so long ago that he was actually just like a kid on the playground playing hopscotch. And so that's what he gives them.
And also, again, throw all that aside, it's the visual gag of these guys who think they're playing craps or a version of craps. They're drinking and playing hopscotch in a warehouse. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's clearly one of the best. Now,
the glow and the catching the bullet, this is what movies bring in the supernatural in Act 3, like at the end of the movie. Like they talk about the glow through the whole thing, and even Shonuff went in the theater in the beginning. He's like, I'm tired of all these stories about Bruce Leroy catching bullets in his teeth, man. Right? And it comes off as like he's this guy who the kids look up to, and they it's almost like they're making a myth of him right now, right?
Yeah.
Feels like very Paul Bunyan and Johnny Appleseed, and like, okay, there's a person here, and we're going to make up these myths and these tall tales about him. But then,
which works because we already know that he can like snatch arrows,
which he really did that.
Yeah.
That it took like 2 hours of practicing for that shot to get it, but like so cool. I don't think he really caught the bullet in his teeth, but maybe. I don't know. We'll have to interview him someday.
Yeah, we'll see.
I love when, and I love that Shonuff starts with the glow, and it's like the evil red glow, and it's got that total Star Wars feel of good versus evil.
Yeah.
And like it's also like when he's underwater and he's like, you've got to find it in yourself. And again, like we were talking about Transformers, the animated movie, like, you've got the touch, right? Just
and so it is interesting that Shonuff does have a form of the glow, right? So
yeah, the evil glow.
There is like this feeling, at least for me throughout the movie, that Show Nuff is just all talk in some way. I mean, it shows him like beating up people the whole time, but really like it feels like, you know, he barks a lot louder than he actually than how good he actually is. But he does have this version of the glow, so he is indeed some type of dark side master.
Yeah, he is a badass, and he wants to be number one. He wants everyone to think he's number one, and it's also the structure is interesting because it starts out with this person whose master says, you have no master now, right? You are complete. You are it. And he can't accept that. And so he goes into the world and he can't accept not being a student anymore. And so then it's just the world, like he has to deal with who he chose to be, like his morality, his belief system, everything about him is challenged by the real world because he's not a student anymore, right? And so he's encountering this pushback for the first time, and the whole second act is about how he deals with the pushback of graduating, of entering the world. And it culminates when all the bad guys come together and they've kidnapped the girl, and you know, very, very fairy tale, very tropey, but like it works in such an interesting way that a normal act 2 doesn't work, that like it pushes you forward, and that whole final battle. And then when his friend comes in, they all start fighting. It hits on so many levels that I just love. Yeah.
This was a great movie. It really was a gem. Like, I'm so glad that you picked it. We are running out of time. I think that we could keep talking for quite a while, but so next week is my pick, and I am picking, I believe the director is John Watts' Clown. He's the same guy who's restarted the Spider-Man multiverse, but we're going to watch his first feature film, Clown. A man wears a clown suit and turns into a clown or something. So anyway, let's check it out. I'm Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We've been compelled by Schlock, and we'll see you next week. Peace, guys.
Schlocky, schlock, schlock. Schlock. Schlock, schlocky, schlock, schlock.